Oops. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. All right, we'll get started with the webinar in just a few minutes, waiting for some people to come in. So we'll get started here very soon. Okay, we're just going to give people another minute or so to join, and we'll get started with the webinar in just a few moments. All right, I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. So I want to thank everybody for joining the webinar today. Our topic is doing multi-channel right and optimizing offers for conversion. We'll go ahead and get started. Before we get into the main content of the webinar, I just want to go over just a few webinar housekeeping items. We will send a recording of the webinar later this week or early next week. So you'll get a copy of that. If you miss something, you'll be able to watch that later. And as we offered in the webinar invite, we'll send you a link where you can get a free competitive analysis report that'll help you with your multi-channel sales strategy. And of course, this is a webinar, so you won't need your camera or microphone. And you're invited to ask questions throughout the webinar. Use the Q&A feature, not the chat feature, to do that with. And what we'll try to do is answer questions in line as they come up. And we may save a few for the end to answer live near the end of the webinar. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce our speakers today. We've got Manish Chowdhury. He's the founder and CEO of Kahoot, the world's first peer-to-peer e-commerce fulfillment network. Kahoot helps brands and e-commerce merchants grow their businesses on leading marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart, eBay, with affordable nationwide shipping. You can think of Kahoot kind of like the Airbnb of e-commerce fulfillment, where merchants share warehouse space and fulfill orders for each other. Also like to introduce Ori Greenberg. He's the CEO of AlgoPix, a SaaS platform helping over 70,000 sellers, CPGs, brands, and e-commerce marketplaces to grow their online sales and market share. With their cross-channel market share analysis solution that provides full visibility to SKU, brand, category level data across channels like Amazon, Walmart, eBay, and Google Shopping. AlgoPix also serves enterprises like P&G, Nestle, and marketplaces like Facebook, Walmart, and Google. So without, and also on the line, we've got a couple of other panelists. We've got Aldi, he's the growth manager at Kahoot, and he's helping with answering the sort of Kahoot related questions as they come up. And Seth from AlgoPix will be answering the AlgoPix related questions as they come up today. With that said, I'd like to go ahead and turn this over to Manish, and he can get us started.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to attend this webinar. The topic of multi-channel e-commerce is, of course, not new. However, there has been a renewed interest in sellers wanting to succeed on multi-channel simply because of the incredible growth that we are seeing in e-commerce. Just last year was, of course, due to COVID. US e-commerce saw a 44% growth in GMV. Leading marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart also saw some massive growth, 40%. And Walmart, of course, their marketplace is relatively newer compared to Amazon, so they saw even larger, almost 80% growth. So all of this really underscores the idea that merchants must be present on multiple channels, and not just on marketplaces, but also their native direct-to-consumer website. And as we can see from Shopify, Shopify experienced almost doubled their GMV last year. Of course, not all of it is because everybody doubled their sales, but there were a lot of new sellers that came online to start selling online for the first time. However, nonetheless, these are some massive numbers, large statistics. And in fact, a Shopify study confirms that merchants who sell on 3 or more channels typically see a 2 to 2.5 times more sales than selling on just one channel. So I know we have a great guest speaker today who will teach us about a number of things. And more importantly, the message here is, how do we do multi-channel right? While the opportunity is incredible, the challenges are also not small. Next slide. In order to do multi-channel right, we have a simple framework that we will want to walk you through this today. The basics of doing multi-channel selling right is, of course, the right products, but listing the products correctly, what we call product listings, is very important. And then having competitive pricing for those products. And then you need to double that up with free and fast shipping and free and fast delivery, because when you take pricing into account, it's the fully loaded cost that the customer will pay, which should include shipping. And most e-commerce consumers are used to now having free one-day shipping or free two-day shipping. So that's very important. So our guest speaker will talk a lot about how to do the right listings, how to identify what products to target, and also how to set the right prices. When you do all this, and you do this in a data-driven way, as opposed to gut feel, you will see higher conversion rate. And later in the presentation, make sure you stick around. We'll talk about how to do this without losing your shirt, how to do this while being profitable, because a lot of sellers, when they go multi-channel, they find themselves that they are not able to sustain the margins. So we will teach you some tips and tricks to ensure that your margin is not eroded as you embark this journey, or if you're already on it, how can you make it better? Next slide. So our guest speaker is Ori Greenberg. He's the CEO of AlgoPix. They have some amazing insights into product listings, competitive pricing, and demand analytics. So I'm going to now turn this over to Ori to teach us about how to do all this right.
Thanks, Manish and Mike, for having me today. I appreciate it a lot. I'm excited to be here and talk about what we can do and what merchants need to do in order to be successful and kind of manage a successful business and successful life as a result. So let's dive into the next slide, please. Today, we're going to talk about the challenges of sourcing the right product and how do the most successful sellers source their merchandise and how do they decide which channels to sell these products at. So we'll talk about prioritizing channel expansion and basically how to look into the details and make sure that you make enough margins and you can, maintain a sustainable business. What we know is that there are over 15 million online sellers, and most of them will make decisions based on gut feel. They will be either lucky or wrong because 20% of all inventory ends up as overstock. That translates into $450 billion in overstock a year in the US only. And most sellers, most online sellers, before they want to sell a product, they would need to source the product. So let's talk about the challenge of sourcing the right products, right? Basically, online sellers receive price lists from suppliers on an ongoing basis. So the main challenge is how to choose the right product from your supplier. So here's an example. Meet Daniela, who's the buyer of a large reseller company that specializes in eyewear. Daniela receives price lists from over 300 suppliers on an ongoing basis. She sometimes gets one-off and sometimes she gets it from her, permanent suppliers. But basically, 15 million online sellers receive the price list just like Daniela does and just like you guys probably do. These Excel sheets could include 2 products, but they can also include 20,000 products. And we all know that if you don't respond to your supplier who is offering an attractive product for you to source, if you don't respond immediately and if you don't choose the right product with the right number of units, you might be missing out on an offer and someone else will grab it. So it is key to select the right product, but it is also key to act fast on it. Next slide, please. What AlgoPix is about, but regardless of AlgoPix, what we recommend online sellers to do and what we see the most successful sellers do is make data-driven decisions. So ideally, what we'd be able to advise you with is what data points you should be looking into. So let's dive into a quick product analysis by moving on to the next slide, and we'll talk about the key KPIs that you need to look into. So let's say you were offered to buy a product for $100 a unit. You need to understand the market price, right? But you would also need to understand shipping costs. You don't need to understand competition, tax and VAT if you sell internationally. And you would need to understand the demand analysis, right? How many units that product sells across each and every channel that is a channel of your interest. So while a lot of sellers will check what is the demand level for a product on Amazon, they will usually disregard other channels. Now, if I'm seeing that the market price for that product on Amazon is $200, and it seems like I have a decent margin on this product, would it be significant to know that someone can purchase that product on different channels, so let's say Walmart or eBay for $170? Would it make us change our decision whether we should source that product or not? It's hard to answer the question, but what we know for sure is it is good to know that, and it's good to have that at your hands available when you make that sourcing decision. So these data points are crucial to make the right sourcing decision. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk about expansion opportunities. Most sellers get somehow sucked into selling in channels that are probably the biggest channels, and that makes a lot of sense. However, by quantifying the opportunity of expanding to other channels, you basically have the ability of realizing what effort is needed and what is kind of the benefit that could come from this. So in Daniela's case, she was mainly selling on her own website and on Amazon.com, which is very common these days. She was carrying more than 4,000 different SKUs. And looking into the expansion opportunities and trying to quantify them, we found that for these 4,150 items that she's carrying in stock, there's a monthly sales potential of a little bit over $5 million per month. But only 1,094 of her SKUs are price competitive versus the market. Out of these SKUs, only 170 are best sellers. So it's very easy to kind of quantify the opportunity and understand that if you offer only 170 items on Walmart.com, the sales potential could be over $1 million a month. That is immediate, right? You know which products to list. We all know that it's sometimes challenging to list items on Walmart. So listing 4,000 products would be time consuming, and it's understood why it's not something you'll start doing tomorrow morning. But listing 170 products, making sure that they are being shipped and fulfilled the right way is something that's more achievable, I suppose, in this case. Again, doing the same drill on eBay.com, the monthly sales potential for all of the products is over $2 million. Out of these 4,000 SKUs, 651 are price competitive on eBay, 42 are best sellers, and the monthly sales volume for these 42 products is a little bit over $700,000 a month. So again, very actionable. All you need to do is create 42 listings on eBay, which is sometimes not that straightforward, right? Where on Amazon, if the product already exists in the catalog, then all you need to provide is the ASIN, your SKU, the price and the number of units you have at hand. Whereas you want to list items on Walmart and eBay, you would sometimes, in most cases, need to provide all the product information, right? So let's talk about that in a minute. Let's move to the next slide, please. Getting the right product data is crucial to improve your conversion rate. We all know as shoppers that if I'm missing product information, I go to the place that provides the best information, the best feedback, etc. So we can do what we can do, and that is to provide a comprehensive product data. Now, let's start with the basics. Getting the model number, the brand is something that we know we should be doing, and sometimes hard to get. Companies like Algopix provide that product data to make the listing process easier. But one of the most important parameters when listing product, and is mandatory on most channels these days, is actually listing the GTIN. So the UPCs, the EANs, the right ASINs, etc. Make sure these items are listed with these details. If you're missing the GTIN, some of the marketplaces, some of the sales channels will have a hard time making sure that your product appears on their marketing campaigns. And it's not possible to list a product on Google Shopping without these details, which a lot of the marketplaces publish it. So just make sure you have comprehensive product listing information. Next slide, please. what is in it for Daniela for the long term? How does using data to make decisions affect the bottom line? So I can tell you that Daniela was able to reduce the overstock level from over 21% to below 6%. The increase in international sales is over 500% simply because Daniela could identify the sales channels that have demand for her product where the margin makes sense. So expanding to these channels was pretty much immediate. The overall margins went up from 14% to 26%. And at the end of the day, she didn't need to do all these manual decision-making processes with all the Excel sheets that are involved in it. So just analyzing the opportunities quickly, efficiently, and accurately was key in improving the business and the business KPI. Next slide, please. All right. We're going to talk a little bit more about how fulfillment is going to be crucial for that expansion process. And Manish can walk you guys through the rest of the fulfillment area.
Thank you, Ori. Thank you. That was outstanding. And what Ori has taught us is most sellers that we speak with, many of them are under 50 employees. Several of them are under 20 employees. So most sellers have so limited time and they need to accomplish so much. And then Ori's sniper approach to product listing, instead of focusing on 4,000 SKUs, if you focused on 42 best-selling SKUs and get them right on eBay and Walmart, you can really make a big difference and increase sales relatively quickly. So, and speaking of G10, which is Global Trade Identification Number, I just learned a couple of days ago that Amazon is going to require sellers to enter the G10 because of this whole movement of brand and transparency and giving control to the brand owner. So having all those details is very crucial. So you can definitely take advantage of that with the AlgoPix tool, which makes it super easy to identify all that in virtually very limited time. And they also have a free trial that you can take advantage of. But let's continue down the conversion funnel and the tips on how to improve your conversion. You can have the best listing, you can have a competitive price on the right channel, and then when the user goes and adds the item to the shopping cart, if they find out that you're going to charge an exorbitant amount for shipping and there is no clear information on when the product will arrive, you are not going to make the sale, because consumers today want things fast and they want it free. And I'll share with you data that supports that. Next slide, please. Free and fast shipping. This is basically the name of the game in e-commerce. If you're not offering free 1-day, 2-day shipping, it's going to be really hard to compete, especially on marketplaces. Even on your website, the data clearly suggests that if you were to say enable the Prime badge on a listing on Amazon, you can easily expect to get 50% more sales. So if your product listing has the Prime badge enabled, in fact, we've seen as high as 3 to 4x the sales on the same identical listing with Prime versus non-Prime. And the same is true on Walmart. Walmart has a 2-day badge. It's called the guaranteed 2-day shipping. So if you turn on the free 2-day badge on Walmart, you will see an increase in conversion and increase in sales. And even eBay, for that matter, 11%. So let's go to the next slide. Amazon has, of course, been the leader when it comes to logistics and free and fast shipping. In 2005, Amazon was the first retailer to introduce free 2-day shipping with $25 minimum. Then they reduced that or eliminated that. And everybody else, it took them a decade or so to follow. However, everybody learned that free shipping is crucial to increasing your sales. And now all the consumers have been trained to look for free shipping. Amazon introduced Amazon Prime program in 2005, which gave, for a fixed annual fee or a monthly fee, you could get unlimited free shipping on all orders. Of course, it took Walmart several years, but they introduced their Walmart Plus program last year that competes with Amazon Prime. And there are other retailers as well that have similar programs. But what happened 2 years ago is Amazon continuing to push the delivery battle forward. They introduced free one-day shipping in 2019. And in fact, in 2020 and 2019, almost 1/3 of all Amazon orders delivered in the holiday season were delivered in 1 day. I know it sounds crazy, but I am a user of Amazon. I'm a Prime customer. I order stuff on, Friday evening, and I have it. Sometimes they get delivered on a Saturday. Sometimes they get delivered even on a Sunday. So the consumers are completely trained on that sort of expectation. And a consumer doesn't care whether you're a small merchant, you're a large merchant. They want the same experience from you as they get from the largest of retailer. And in fact, if you're selling on Amazon or Walmart or these marketplaces, the consumer doesn't even think that it's coming from a third-party seller. They think it's coming from Amazon, so they expect you to deliver on the same exact promise. Next slide, please. So Amazon, what has changed is Amazon has introduced a new requirement to its Seller Fulfill Prime program earlier this year, which is going to force all third-party sellers who participate in Seller Fulfill Prime to adopt to the Amazon's new one-day delivery standards, because Amazon wants products delivered faster. So all third-party sellers that want to take advantage of the Prime badge and participate in the Seller Fulfill Prime program, they have to adopt and they have to adapt that now at least 30% of all your orders or listings must show 1 calendar day delivery, not even 1 business day. So if you see a 1-day delivery on a Friday evening, the expectation is that product will be delivered on Saturday or Sunday, but not Monday. So the e-commerce free and fast delivery is moving fast. And what's important to know is that what happens on Amazon doesn't stay on Amazon, because Amazon leads the pack, Amazon sets the standard, and everybody else has to follow. So we can take a clue from here as to what's coming down the pike, and you as the progressive seller, you can adopt quickly, and you can get on this journey faster than it becomes required, because now is the opportunity. Next slide. So previously on the Amazon world, if you were a Seller Fulfill Prime customer or merchant, you could do regional Prime, which means you could carve out a radius. That is the region that you could deliver free shipping, 1-day or 2-day shipping in that region using ground shipping, and you were happy. And so were all the other sellers in different regions. But now, as of February 1 on Amazon, you must offer nationwide free shipping. Free 2-day shipping must be offered nationwide. In fact, free 1-day shipping must be offered nationwide at least 30% of the time for standard items. So what this is going to do is offers from other sellers who offer this program is going to bombard your region if you don't already participate in the nationwide shipping. So in short, free 1-day, 2-day nationwide is already on Amazon. It's coming on all the other channels. So it's very important to take that seriously. Next slide. However, the big problem is free shipping is free to the consumer, but it's definitely not free for you as a merchant. And fast shipping combined with free is a very dangerous term. As you can see from this map, to achieve 1-day coverage using 2 locations using ground shipping, most of us can only afford to ship using economical ground shipping. We can afford to ship using 2-day air or overnight, FedEx overnight. Just the margins are never there to be able to afford that. So most sellers sell and want to ship using FedEx ground, UPS ground, USPS first class. But with 2 strategic locations, and mind you, these are strategic locations, New York, Southern California, you can, with 2 locations, you'll achieve about 23% of the US population coverage in one day, about 78% in 2 days. So if your warehouse is located in the middle of the country, you probably will get even less. 4 locations will get you a little bit closer to 40% coverage in the US for 1 day, and about 9 locations, next slide, will get you to about 63%. So there's a lot of locations that are needed, and that's where you need assistance with fulfillment. Next slide, please. And that is why we built the Kahoot Fulfillment Network, similar to Ori's tool, to make life simple. Next slide. What we built is Kahoot is the nationwide order fulfillment network, which has the highest fulfillment standards in the industry. We were just awarded one of the world's most innovative companies award by Fast Company because of our innovation regarding peer-to-peer e-commerce fulfillment, which I will share with you momentarily what that means. We have similar standards, in fact, higher standards than Amazon FBA because we support Seller Fulfill Prime customers, 99.95% on-time shipping, and we are a 5-star rated app on Amazon App Marketplace. Next slide. So what is a Kahoot peer-to-peer fulfillment network? It is basically a nationwide network of warehouses that helps fulfill your orders in 1 or 2 days, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, fully compliant with Amazon Seller Fulfill Prime requirements. What's unique about Kahoot is we don't have any Q4 surcharges on storage fees or any receiving delays. It's affordable all year long, and we are able to do this because of our novel business model, which I'll share with you soon. And it is fully automated, meaning we connect directly to your Shopify store if you're selling on Shopify, Amazon, eBay, either directly or through integrated partners. And you don't have to engage in a very tech-heavy integration project, and we can start shipping within 2 weeks. And most of the time is basically you sending inventory to the Kahoot network or to the Kahoot warehouses. And if you have great rates, if you're a large seller and you have spectacular negotiated rates with UPS and FedEx, no problem. We can use the same account, so you get all the credit. You get to continue using that volume. And if you don't have great rates, Kahoot certainly has ones that we can help you with. And what's unique about Kahoot is the peer-to-peer fulfillment, which I will share in a couple of slides. How do you leverage Kahoot? As we saw earlier, you need 2 locations to cover 23% of the US population in 1 day. To achieve nationwide coverage, you need many locations. Most 3PLs are mom and pop companies that generally have 1 or 2 or 3 location stops. So it's very challenging for sellers like you to go and negotiate and contract with many, many companies and try to make all this technology work in real time. Whereas you can simply use a network like Kahoot. You send the inventory to Kahoot. Kahoot distributes it across its fulfillment warehouses. And we basically, our software determines which orders should be fulfilled from which location so that it's cheapest to fulfill. And the best part is if you have a warehouse of your own and you want to also continue doing fulfillment, you can totally do that. And our technology ensures that you will continue to fulfill the orders that are cheaper to fulfill from your location. So we don't exclude your location. Next slide. Option 2, the other way to engage with the Kahoot network is to engage in our peer-to-peer fulfillment program, which is basically if you have a warehouse and you want to monetize your existing storage space and your labor in order to make money, you can join to become a node on the network, and you can become a fulfillment partner for Kahoot. And Kahoot will send you inventory. Of course, it's a by invitation only program, and it requires some vetting and due diligence, like you need to be in business for at least 5 years. You should have good ratings. And this becomes a great way to make money fulfilling orders for Kahoot, not just outsourcing to Kahoot. And if you were outsourcing, this is a way to boost your margin. You can offset a lot of your fees by making money on the Kahoot network. Next slide. So I will want to share with you a simple success story, a company called Twinkle Toy, and what was their journey to multi-channel. Prior to Kahoot, they were exclusively an FBA seller, and they were hit pretty hard by the COVID restrictions that happened last spring. Amazon stopped taking inventory. Their sales completely dried up because, as you know, toy is not an essential good. But of course, Eli Miller wasn't happy about that. There were many consumers that wanted his products because they were stuck at home, and it was an incredible opportunity. So he came to Kahoot. We converted the listings to FBM, and we were able to start selling nationwide, free and fast shipping by distributing inventory to 5 strategic locations through the US. And then he also expanded to additional channels, Walmart, eBay, opened his own Shopify store. And within a short span of 3 months, he was able to reduce his reliance, increase his sales, and now nearly 40% of his sales come from non-Amazon channel, which he is really happy about. And a lot of this success is attributed to the ability to move quickly with fulfillment, have competitive pricing, have enhanced listings, and also managing your cost so that you can do it profitably and sustainably. Next slide. To summarize our webinar topic, and we will have plenty of room for Q&A. We wanted to get done early so that we can engage with the audience. I'm sure you all have questions, so please keep them coming in the chat. And to summarize, what are the 3 key pillars of great conversion across all channels is selecting the right products, creating high-performing enhanced product listings with deep information like what Ori taught us, competitive pricing. You can't be competitive on all products on all channels by taking a sniper approach, using the tools like AlgoPix to identify which are your best sellers, and then making sure that you are price competitive on those. And not just price competitive as a list price, but also fully loaded cost, which should include shipping. And if you can add free and fast delivery, that is a conversion booster. And all of this can only be done using data-driven decision-making by looking at the demand analytics, by identifying the right products prior to sourcing, because you don't want to be surprised after you bought a lot of items at a price and then figuring out what price to sell it at and where to sell it at. It's too late by then, and you certainly will not be able to manage your margins. And by distributing your inventory into a network such as Kahoot or an order fulfillment network that enables free 2-day, 1-day shipping badges, not only on marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart, eBay, but also on your direct-to-consumer channels like Shopify, you can improve your margins, and all of this what leads to higher conversion rate. I'm going to turn it back to you, Mike, for the rest of the.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Manish and Ori. That was really informative. I've learned a lot. I think there's some valuable information for the participants today. And we've had some questions come in. So we'll go ahead and try to get some of those answered. And Aldi, I'll start with you if you want to sort of serve up one of the questions, and then we'll go back and forth between you and Seth to serve up questions that come up, and we'll try to get those answered for everybody live. And bear with us just a moment while we get those queued up. All right, Ollie, do we have any questions that we've got come up that we want to address now, or Seth?
Yeah, guys, I've got a question here. I'll leave it to the panel. How would you set a strategy for multi-channel expansion for someone who sells on Amazon only today?
I'm happy to take that question. Thank you. So setting the strategy for selling multi-channel is something that ideally you do based on data. There are over 50 channels you can sell your product at. So realizing the demand level and your competition in every channel is key. Once you can quantify the opportunity, meaning I can sell $1 million a month on this channel, $500,000 a month on that channel, etc., that would be kind of the first step. So prioritizing, and once you've identified the channels of interest where there's room for you to sell, but also to grow, then what you would need to do is basically be able to list the channels and be successful each and every one of these channels. It's not just set it up there and forget about it. You need to have the right fulfillment, the right product, described the right way, and then you'll need to get into marketing. So every channel would have their own marketing methods, but before you get into a new channel, just learning more about what it takes to be successful on that channel is key. I hope that answers the question, at least high level.
Great. All right. And I see a question about coverage in Canada.
So Algopix does cover product research in Canada. Fulfillment-wise, Kahoot team can probably answer that one.
Yes, Kahoot is right now primarily focused in the US, but we do have customers in Canada. We have yet to start fulfillment operations in Canada, but it is something that is scheduled for later this year.
All right, great. All right, Aldi, I think there's some other questions coming in.
Yeah.
There's a question about the size and quantity limitation that Kahoot can work with, because when we're spreading inventory across locations, there might be some minimum in terms of like how much does a merchant need to have?
Well, I mean, how many units should you spread across how many locations is a more of a question of practical limitations. You know, most sellers, there's a cost involved in freight of shipping inventory to multiple locations. And when you ship them in small parcels, it's much more expensive than shipping them in pallets and containers. So we recommend that the sellers strike a balance between the two, because ultimately the fully loaded cost of shipping is also inclusive, or should include the cost of transportation, whether it is by freight, by B2B. So using those rules of thumb, you know, to determine, you know, based on your profit margins, because on the Kahoot network, the seller is responsible for shipping that inventory to those warehouses, and then the inventory will be received. So it is important to strike a balance between how many units and then accounting for safety stock, and before spreading the inventory way too thin. But we work with each seller individually to determine what geographies and what locations and what quantity makes sense for each of their SKUs.
All right, great. All right, Seth, do you have any other questions that you've seen come up?
I sure do. So I have a question here. Selling on Amazon, to have any item listed, I really just need the ASIN, but other channels require full product descriptions. How or what is the best way to go about getting sufficient product data to list in multi-channel?
I'm happy to take that one. So depending on your catalog size, the response will be kind of different. If all you're selling is 1, 2, or 10 items, then I would manually build these items for success. So taking the right photos, having a studio taking the photos, having copywriter write the product descriptions, iterate and improve as you go, see what your competitors are doing. I would do that manually. But see, if you're more volume oriented and you need to run 10,000 items or 100,000 or 1,000,000 items, you would need to kind of automate that process and have machine learning and AI at your side to kind of optimize for that process. So what AlgoPix is able to do is kind of process millions of items a day and provide comprehensive product information that will be original and uniquely created. That would include obviously all the product identifiers like the UPCs, the ANs, etc. So different ways to go about it, but you should definitely spend a lot of energy on that because that is success when selling in e-commerce. Product description is key. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Ori. All right, Aldi, do you have anything else from the Kahoot side there?
Just to touch on Ori's point, I think product listing, there's, if you are simply attaching your inventory to an existing product listing on these marketplaces, because most marketplaces are the owners of the listing. If you're creating your unique listing, there's an opportunity to have differentiated content because that also helps with search engine optimization. If you copy the same identical data in all your marketplaces, especially if you're a brand owner, you have the opportunity to distinguish it. That will help you in Google, and then you have to pay less in advertising. And when people are searching for your products, because consumers search on Amazon, they also search on Google, and Google can be a nice cheap way to get a click back to your website or even to your other channels by really focusing in. So starting with, as Ori suggested, if you're doing thousands of items, you need a more automated approach. If you're doing fewer, then do it by hand, hire a content writer to even differentiate some of it. But of course, the basics remain the same, like the model number, the detailed technical specs that you may have about the product, very, very important, because when you think about, say, buying camera or you're comparing one model against the other. And so you need to be able to compare those in a highly granular fashion. And that's why some of the data that comes from AlgoPix and other tools like that is very, very valuable.
All right, thanks, Manish. It looks like we have time for maybe one more question. Seth, anything else that you've seen there come up that we can answer?
Yeah, I have one more question. How should I be thinking about repricing in terms of multi-channel? Is there like and I guess the question is there a dedicated cross-channel kind of repricing strategy that you guys would suggest?
Happy to take this one. So it is very important to price your product in the right way based on the channel that you'll be selling it. So it's not only about competition, it's also understanding the entire environment. And I'll give an example. If you're selling a $5 product or a $10 product, or I would say until up to $30 product, then you should be leading in your channel, having the best price in your channel. So if you're the cheapest seller on eBay, then you'll see a significant increase in sales. It is very important to track how your competitors change price. So if possible, you can increase price and significantly increase your margin. Where you're selling an expensive product like a $500 camera or computer, you need to know what's happening cross channels. So price your product, assuming that someone is going to do price comparison and buy the product at the cheapest price from the most reputable seller. So take everything into account, your price in the channel, your price versus other channel, comparable fulfillment methods, take everything into account when you reprice your product. Now, it is worth mentioning that there are some tools in the market that specialize in pricing only. When you sell a large number of SKUs, it is recommended to use a dedicated pricing tool.
All right, great, thanks. All right, well, we're coming up on time. Just want to check in, Manish or Ori, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with? All right. Well, up on the screen there, we've got the email addresses for the two sales teams as well as the website. So encourage you to reach out and learn more about Kahoot and AlgoPix. And as I mentioned at the head of the webinar here, we will send a recording, copy of the recording to everyone that registered, along with the link to get the free competitive intelligence report. So that will go out in the next few days. And hope that you guys found this informative today and can use this to grow your business. Thanks again for attending. Bye-bye.